Hello everybody and welcome to my tearlaments deck profile post June 5th, 2023 ban list. I went to locals actually yesterday and got 3-0 with this deck. Sorry, not 3-0, 3-1. I only lost to Marincest. My other three matches were Branded, Sprite, and Sword Soul. So let's get into this. First, 3 Rhino Heart. You could cut this to 2, but playing pure tier, I think you should be playing 3. Next is 3 tier cash. I mean, you just have to play 3 tier cash. I don't think you can play this deck without it, theoretically, but no. It's not that pricey at only like $7. You should be playing it. The deck's actually pretty cheap to play besides a few cards. So, next we have 1 of each of the tier girls. I mean, it would just be unfair if you could play any more, right? So that is it for the tier names. The main deck tier monsters. Now moving on to the different engines I play. First, the Ishizu engine, obviously. I only play the Millers in the main deck. The Shufflers are in the side deck because I've found that if I'm using the Shufflers, it means I'm probably either not going to win or my opponent relies on the graveyard. So, in the graveyard case, I'm probably just going to side those in. Next is the Rescue Ace engine, where I use 2 Rescue Ace Impulse and 1 Rescue Ace Fire Attacker. Impulse says, quick effect, when your opponent activates a card effect, you may tribute this card from your hand or field, and special summon a Machine Rescue Ace, in our case Fire Attacker. And when you do, and Rescue Ace Fire Attacker states that when your opponent switches their deck, you may draw 2 cards and discard 1 card. That's a hard once per turn though. Just a great way. Getting a better pot of greed is always nice. Equally Snar deck. Next is the Shadal engine. 2 Squidmata, 1 Beast. Squidmata can send Beast. When it's sent to the graveyard, Beast says when it's sent to the graveyard, draw a card. And we just play these for Winda. That's really the only reason we play these. Next is for the miscellaneous. Creatures. We got 3 King of the Swamp for Rook Kolos, and I play Grapha as well in the deck. So this also lets you get into Grapha. It can also substitute for if you somehow don't mill a Rhino Heart, it can substitute for Kaleido. It can substitute for Rhino Heart for Kaleido Heart. And 1 Danger Mothman. I'm thinking of cutting this. Is to add another Tearlaments Grief later on. Next for the hand traps, 3 Ash. Nothing else in the main. You just need to be playing Ash in this meta. Next for cards relating to the field spell. First, obviously, we got 2 Pearl Reno. You should be playing 3. I will say you should be playing 3, but I cannot afford 3, so I've traded for 2. So I've bought 1 and traded for the other, so I have 2 Pearl Reno. Next is 3 goods. You can also go down to 2, but I just think the 3 goods for the more consistency is the better option. Then we got 1 Terraforming and 1 Trippy Karma. Pretty standard, I believe. Trippy Karma, if you didn't know, allows you to banish itself from the graveyard to add a spell that wrenches Visa Starfrost, which most of the time is going to be your Pearl Reno, because of goods. Lastly, we have the tier spell traps. No, just the normal spell traps. We've got 3 Scream, Tearlaments Scream. Great card. You can again go down to 1 less than this, but I would not suggest it. It's just such a powerful card. 2 Solyak. You should be at least playing 2 of those. 1 Meta Noise. I think 1 Meta Noise is great. 1 Grief. I'm thinking of adding another one by removing Danger Mothman. Grief is just so powerful. It allows you to special summon a tier and then send another tier to the graveyard, so you get a fusion and an extension, which most of the time will lead to mills. And lastly, we got 1 Foolish Barrel. It just acts as a fusion, basically just a polymerization, and polymerization for King of the Swamp. That's it for the main. Next, moving on to the extra deck, we're going to start off with the tier fusions. First, we've got 2 Rook Kalos. Rook Kalos is really good. It allows you to negate one special summon by sending a tier card to the graveyard, either allowing you to fusion on your opponent's turn, or allowing you to just get a free negate. Next is 1 Kaleido Heart. Kaleido Heart is great. Usually you'll be fusion summoning this on your opponent's turn, or if you go second to bounce a card on their field. Then you'll use something like Pearl Reno to destroy this, bring it back, and send it to the grave to get our fusion. Great card. Alright, so that's it for the main deck for all the tier fusions I play. Very small, I know. But next we play 2 Winda. 1 Winda is pretty much required, but I play 2 because no one expects the second Winda. That's how I won against Sprite. And I was 1-1 with Sprite, and it's the third game they got rid of my Winda, and I just made another Winda to stop them from comboing off. That's how I won that game. So I think that this is very useful. Next for the miscellaneous fusions, we got 1 Mad Dragon in the Swamp to protect your Windas and stuff. Sorry, to protect stuff like your Rook Claws and your other fusions. 1 Draco Stapelia. It's great. 1 Grapha. I really like Grapha. This is the only reason I won against Sword Soul. My last game was Sword Soul. And I won because I forced them because they had a card that would banish a monster when it's summoned or activates an effect. I summoned Grapha for the attack points, and I used Grapha's effect to change their banish effect to discard a card. It's just a great 8 ability. Next for the Xyz monsters, we got 1 Time Fee for Doer. It allows you to fusion summon on your opponent's turn if you went first. 1 Baguska in case you brick, and 1 Abyss Dweller just in case you deal with an opposing graveyard deck. Next for the links, we've got 1 Barricade Board Blocker to search out the field spell, or Scream if you have the field spell or another way to get into the field spell. 1 Nightmare Cerberus. I'm thinking of running tonight. I found this to be quite useful for popping big boss monsters, as tier usually tries to win in with your opponent having a pretty empty board. Next is Dark, the Dark Charmer. Great for dealing with stuff like Kashtira, stuff like that, by taking cards in the graveyard to there. And then 1 Underworld Goddess. That's it for the main. That's it for the extra, sorry. And now onto the side deck. First we have the 3 ofs. First we have 3 Dark Ruler No More, in case your opponent wants to set up a ton of pesky negates. This will solve it. I made a mistake against Marincess by not siding in Dark Ruler, or to deal with their Totally Awesome. It was a mistake on my part, but I'll live for it. And usually, if you're siding in Dark Ruler, you'll also be siding in Raigeki. Just deal with all their monsters. It's great, and will probably allow you to push for lethal most of the times. Next, we have the 2 ofs. First, we've got 2 Nibiru. You could play 3 Nibiru, but I find 2 to be just fine. I've drawn Nibiru every single time I've put it in so far. Next is 2 Ghost Spell to deal stuff like Labyrinth. And lastly, for the 2 ofs, we've got 2 Heartbeat. Heartbeat is great for dealing with Floodgates. for floodgates. It's really just that, and it's a quick play, so it's great if your opponent tries to open a floodgate on your turn. You can respond with that. For the 1-ofs, we've got the Shufflers. We got Medora and Keldo. The Shufflers are great for dealing with your opponent has stuff they want to do in their graveyard. And lastly, and the last card is a Harpy's Feather Duster. This can be another Biru. I haven't decided yet, so that can be your call. But I haven't decided in Harpies yet. Could be useful. It's just for another Labyrinth thing. So that is that's the deck. Well, I think Tier has a great matchup against many decks, especially with the window. Thanks to the consistency of getting to Winda, it is great because stuff like Sprite, if they don't have an out for Winda, they just lose. Same with Sword Soul. If you can interrupt them, that Winda is going to kill their game. Brandon had the same problem. Couldn't get through the Winda Rukolos combo by negating their summon. I think it has great matchups, though Kashtira is game. Just give up if you have if you go against Kashtira mostly. I still play it out because I want to play and see if I can. But if the Kashtira player doesn't break horribly, that's game. You might as well move on to getting some lunch break or going to your lunch break or something. So that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for my Tier Element deck profile. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all later. Goodbye.